Girl, you don't make sense. Hello. Again. Look at me, I'm doing videos again without being emotionally exhausted. That's fantastic, you know. It's like character development right here in my own little room. Right? I'll tell you the books that I have read last May, even though that it's already like what? The 3rd week of June? And only now I'm doing this video. It's fine, you know. Better late than never. That's what we got here. Yeah, that's what we got here. I read an amount of 5 books this month, which is actually the average amount of books that I actually read in a month, which is fine because I have endured such a suffocating reading slump last month and still now. The first book that I read this month was And the Trees Crept In by Dawn. I'm not gonna try. Okay, I'm not gonna even try. I'm keeping myself safe. You're keeping yourself safe? More like you're being a scaredy cat for not pronouncing author names. This is a horror novel, a young adult horror novel. Basically, it's like 2 siblings come by to a house to live with their aunt. This house has a kind of history, and it's not like a haunted house per se, it's more like the garden or the forest surrounding the house. The trees around that house keeps creeping closer. Right? Trees crept in, makes sense, a lot of them. So we just kind of read through that. It's very vague, but that's the best way to describe this book. Vague. And that's the best way to get yourself into the book in the first place. The thing is about this book was very random. Just like the moods in your videos. I mean, the concept itself is very random, very unique. I can see this book very much also being adapted to like a horror movie, which would be maybe even much better than the book itself. It could be. I don't know. It has to really rely on the production company for me to persuade me. The problem I had with this book was, first of all, the writing style. The writing style was very choppy, if that makes sense. The scenes were like cut up in all kinds of pieces. When the next paragraph came to play, it did not make sense. It did not feel like they were resembling a sort of similar scene. And also in regards to the plot, like the information that you get for the plot is very confusing. Everything that the author was presenting you, it came out of nowhere. It felt like the author was putting her finger in the wind. If you know that metaphor. If it's, I don't even know if that's a freaking metaphor. It's like the author just had no idea what to really implement in the story in order for the plot to just move on. So she just like added something random out of the blue so that you can get like this movement in the story, which I don't know why you do that. The characters, they were written in a way that you wouldn't root for them. You wouldn't feel happy about their choices. That was intentional. That was very evident in the writing style and the character development, because they were very static from the beginning to the end. They were just like the same freaking people that did not change how they thought of how they made decisions. But for one thing I do have to praise is the unique of the plot twist in the end. Even though the end was very short, the plot twist that was presented was kind of out of the ordinary. It was not that kind of plot twist where I was so shocked, with full of goosebumps, and that I had to put the book down and walk out of the room. That was not that kind of plot twist. The book that had that kind of plot twist though was this book. But we'll talk about that book later. The plot twist that happened in this book was like a, what the frick is this? How is that even possible? How did you even think of that? How can I even predict that? How can I even see their foreshadowing? How can I see that? If anybody can really predict that plot twist, then my goodness. How do you do that? How can you explain this to me? How do you? Don't look at me, I'm you. I gave this book 3 stars. So the next book I want to talk about is For Everyone by Jason Reynolds. This is a poetry book that they all connect in a way. It's very short. It was for me very memorable, and I think when I read this, the words that I was reading were kind of the words that I needed right now, in regards to like my choices, of my dream choices, my job choices, my future choices. Jason Reynolds made me feel like I had a chance in whatever I was going to pursue. So it means a lot to me personally, so I'm not sure if other people would see it the same way, but his way of writing, and even in poetry, is very simple, but at the same time it does somehow gets to you, and you don't even expect that. It's not like Shakespeare or something, or whatever. Wow, that's a good example. Did I mention that I cried while reading this? No? Okay, never mind. I gave this book 5 stars. And the next book that I read was Dangerous Girls by Abigail Hayes. This is a mystery thriller book. It's more to the mystery side than the thriller side. And basically the only thing I'm going to tell you in regards to the book description is that it revolves around a murder between a group of friends who go out to an island for a short vacation. And that's all I'm gonna tell you. This book is, well, for somebody who's like still a little bit new to the mystery thriller genre, for me it is still refreshing, I guess. I have no idea what term should I properly use in this, but when I finished this book, I went nuts. I went absolute nuts for how this book did this thing to me, and I will forever have that wound, and I do not regret that at one bit, because that was fantastic and so genius and so crazy in the same time. It's like, I'm not gonna say any word that could anyhow spoil you. One thing that I also really love from this book is like the writing style and the timelines that come through it. It's, you don't really like start from the beginning and then you get to the end, and or like most stories, I guess this one is like cut in all kinds of different timelines, from them being on that vacation, and then another timeline when there is this investigation, and then another timeline where we are in the courtroom, and then back and forth, because it's like all these puzzle pieces of the mystery will like being handed to you, and then you get this opportunity to try to get this foreshadows from it, I guess, to place everything together. And when I was reading this book, I said, oh, what's so great about this book anyway? I think it's quite, don't you think it's a little bit obvious by now? And then when I read the ending, just like the ending, then I said, wow, okay, touche. I'm sure that there are people who can very much well predict this ending, but highly recommended. I can understand why people really like this book, because it really gets to you when you finish it. You just really, what the f. I gave this book 5 stars. Yeah, I'm mumbling now because this is fantastic. So the next book is My Heart and Other Black Holes by Yasmin Warga. Yes, I got that name right. This is a hard-hitting contemporary novel that is basically about 2 teenagers who seek to be suicide partners. And that is literally what it means. So basically in the story we discover the struggles in their lives and why they want to end their lives in the first place. I found this book quite impactful. This book should not be taken lightly, because the characters that we follow are very serious in regards to their reasonings for why they want to do what they want to do. Overall, actually, it was kind of predictable, but it's okay. It's not the downside actually for me, because everything was set to be so. The writing was nothing special, but I still had to appreciate that it was able to captivate me. It was able to let me be interested and be invested in the characters despite my reading slump. What I really admire from this book was how our female main character was a fan of like physics. There's like this mingle of physics throughout the story that connects with what happens when you die, like what happens to your kinetic energy when you die, and it just felt like a very smart formula in this book. I gave this book, I think, 3.5 stars. And the last book that I read, which I think you guys already know. No, I don't know, so spill the tea already. Or just the last book in this video is Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. If you want to know my full thoughts on this book, I made a whole video on it, so spoil yourself with that. But for one thing I really want to say is that ever since I finished this book last month, it kept creeping in my head. Like, Twilight was like shouting this voice down in the abyss of my brain, saying that I should come back in this series and continue and revolve again in the world of Edward and Bella. I will pick up the series very much soon because I want to have that voice in my head. Stop talking. Patience, my friend, patience. So, I gave this book, I think I'm still trying to debate myself in regards to what's my rating, but I think for now it is going to be 3.5. My name is Sakina Vanessa and I'll see you in the next video. I hope you're doing well. Goodbye.